Hi, I'm David Wright, and I'd like to welcome you to this short video explaining our company's newest product. It's called Business GAGE, Gap Assessment for the Growing Enterprise. The purpose of the product is to give process improvement champions or third-party facilitators an objective tool for evaluating how well an organization is performing relative to best practices. It is a web-based subscription service, yet all data is stored on the user's local machine, so there is never a concern about data security. Here we see the splash screen where the program is launched. This is a brief overview of the scope of the program. As you can see, there are 12 different categories of best practices relating to various aspects of business operations. A question we often get is, what types of business can benefit from it? Since these best practices have evolved from the disciplines of Lean Six Sigma and business process improvement, they really are broad enough that essentially any type of business operation can benefit. It is up to the assessment team to understand, interpret, and apply those practices to their particular business. So let's get started and take a look. Notice that the sections are divided into tabbed screens for easy navigation. The user can jump to any screen at any time. This first tab is a set of frequently asked questions that give more detail about the program. One primary question is, who can benefit most? There are two major types of subscribers: in-house quality personnel or process improvement champions, and outside professionals brought in to help client companies define improvement priorities. The next tab gives instructions on how to use the program most effectively. It is important for the team to respond as accurately and completely as they can to get the most from the process. And in addition to the numerical and graphical results, as well as the summary and recommendations at the end, an even greater benefit results from the discussion, discovery, and shared understanding that occur as the team goes through the assessment. Here we see the home screen, where basic information about the organization is captured. Remember, all data is stored only on the main user's local machine and browser, not on remote servers. This next tab is where we begin the actual assessment. It is the main point of interaction where the assessment team records their responses. Incidentally, the program saves each response as it is selected, so there is no need to worry whether an entry was saved. Notice down the left sidebar is a set of vertical tabs that correspond to the 12 categories we would step through during a full assessment. For this video, we will visit only a few to show the structure. Top center, we see the category heading, and next to it is a button that brings up a short definition to remind us of the focus. Beneath the heading is the first best practice in this category. For each of the best practices in a category, the team needs to reach consensus on how we rate the relative importance of that issue to the organization, and also how well we perform with respect to it. The Help button brings up a quick reminder for staying consistent in our ratings of importance. And at any time, we can jump over to the full set of instructions. Notice that if we select DK, don't know, as our response, a pop-up cautions us about it. Although DK and NA, not applicable, responses are not included in the scoring, they still may be significant, so we don't want to lose them. More about that in a moment. The other response is our performance score on a scale of 0 to 4 as defined in the instructions. To advance to the next best practice in the category, we simply click on Next. The progress bar below it shows us where we are. When we finish this category, we can step to the next one. However, GAGE doesn't force us to follow any particular sequence. That way, we can navigate to a particular spot at any time. For example, if the team later decides they want to go back and revisit an issue. And that's it as far as data entry. Now for the fun part. The next tab is where we review our results for each of the 12 categories, one at a time. Notice the same vertical tabs down the left side for navigation. Here we are presented with key pieces of information. Performance score. Incidentally, scores now are converted to a 10-point scale for reporting. And overall importance. Both of these are composite values based upon all responses in that category. We also see how many NA and DK responses we had. This can be revealing. We want to be sure that we weren't too quick to dismiss one or more best practices as not applying to the business. Also, ideally we should have had no DK responses, since DK means that we didn't know or didn't feel qualified to respond, in which case maybe one or more other people should be involved. The first graph tab shows a plot of overall score by category. In the same way, the second tab shows overall importance. The next tab gets even more interesting. Here we see a scatter plot showing where each category falls when considering score versus importance. Now we can begin to see the big picture. Do we perform best in areas that are of greatest importance to our business? Looking at this graph of sample data, if we were to draw a straight line through this cluster of data to represent a best fit, we would see a somewhat negative slope. That tells us that, based upon our team's responses, our performance seems to be a bit weaker in areas that we consider most important to us. One minor note here. It is not uncommon for one or more data plots to overlay one another, either partially or completely. By clicking on a category in the legend, we can toggle it to show or hide, letting us see whatever might be behind it. Finally, the fourth graph tab shows us another look at alignment or focus. Some basic data analytics support what that best fit line would have told us. There is a moderate negative correlation between our overall performance and importance. What that may mean is that we are not allocating our limited resources to best advantage. And finally, the Summary tab. First, we see a recap of overall scoring. Below that is a progress bar that represents our position on the pathway to advanced performance. Messages remind us about the extent of any NA or DK responses. Probably, we will want to do another assessment at some point. To prepare for that, we simply press the Reset button, which deletes all of our data contained in local storage on the device used for this assessment. But before doing that, we can capture and save our summary data in a couple different ways. We can have GAGE launch our default email client and populate the subject and body with our results, which we then can send to ourselves and others. Or we can open a summary of our results and then copy some or all of the report and paste it into another application for saving or sharing. Similarly, we can review, copy, and paste recommendations about our findings and priorities. Based upon our results, the various categories are split into levels of urgency as suggested by GAGE. Then we can realign priorities if that seems appropriate, or we can review selected areas for further investigation. The main outcome is that now we have the benefit of greater discovery and shared understanding that have resulted from taking a thorough and objective look at key aspects of our business operation. That's our business GAGE. Please visit us and check it out. And thank you for watching.